should I say good day, because we're coming to you today from sunny Australia, and not just any old part of Australia, may I say, but from the beautiful city of Perth, which is the capital of Western Australia, or WA as it's called here. Now let me explain something right away. We did mention on a show quite some weeks ago now that if you had friends or relatives here in Perth whom you'd like to see on television, then you should drop us a little note and we would contact them for you. We did not respond to your letters at home for the simple reason that we didn't have the time. And we have contacted here as many as possible of your friends and relatives. And as you can see in this lovely park, the King's Park, which is a 1,000-acre estate right in the centre of the city, we have gathered together very, very many people. So sit tight out there and stay glued to us for the next hour or so, and you're bound to see some of your loved ones and maybe even a few old enemies as well. Well, if you were watching RTE1 during this week, you'll have seen the woman who describes herself as the Taoiseach of Western Australia. And I'm joined now by the very lady herself, Premier Carmen Lawrence. And Premier, you're most welcome to the Bibi show.
Well, thank you, and welcome to Western Australia. Welcome to you and all your crew, and of course to the Irish people who are watching this tonight.
Well, there'll be a lot of them because, of course, back home it's St. Patrick's Day and all those celebrations. Thank you for the welcome. We're delighted to be here. Mostly it's any excuse does to get us away, but Perth is really a very beautiful city.
It is indeed. As you can see behind us, the river is the centre point of the city. It's fantastic.
Tell us a little bit, though, about Perth and Western Australia. Can you just put it into context for our viewers who are not very familiar with the whole continent?
Well, it's a very large state, Western Australia. It makes up a third of Australia's landmass, and we have about 1.7 million people, approximately. Most of those live in the metropolitan area, but they're far-flung. We have mining areas, agricultural areas. We have the tropical part in the northwest and cool temperate in the south. So we have everything on offer in Western Australia.
And when the Irish come to Western Australia, do they come mostly to Perth, or do you sort of send them out into the desert and the bush?
Well, they have in the past spread around the countryside. We've had Irish people in farming, in mining, in agriculture generally. We've had them in the professions, in the trades. They've been everywhere in Western Australia, like my relations. Probably a lot of them started off in the countryside, but gradually we've had a drift to the city.
You've had a lot of Irish relations, and who are they? What are the names?
I have Murphys and Duggans and Coynes and Melbournes, a lot from the south of Ireland, and I think somewhere along the way I've got one from the north as well.
Well, you must be a true green Irish woman.
I am indeed.
With names like Murphy in your background.
Very proud of it too.
And can I ask you also very seriously, what about the future prospects for Irish people coming to Australia? Because I get the impression that maybe you don't want or need as many as you used to do. Is that the case?
No. I mean, we welcome migrants, particularly from Ireland and from the United Kingdom as well, where language is obviously not a problem when people come here.
But have you jobs for them nowadays?
Well, at the moment, it's clearly a very tough time here in Australia, and the federal government who controls migration is almost certain to reduce the numbers for a little while. But I hope people will look beyond that, and as we start to recover, look at Western Australia particularly as a place to come to. Not only do we have a superb climate, although we have to be a bit careful with our pale skins, obviously, but we do have opportunities. Our state's growing faster than any other, and once we get out of this temporary difficulty, skilled people at all levels are more than welcome in Australia.
The temporary difficulty that you mentioned, we hear these phrases at home, temporary little arrangements and so on, from our own Irish politicians now. I mean, are you being realistic when you say that what's going on here is a temporary difficulty, and how long will that last, in your view?
Well, we've had, I guess the last 18 months have been particularly difficult from an employment point of view, and a lot of people at the moment are feeling that, and obviously the people who come here as migrants feel it hardest. So I think it's important that we exercise some caution. But West Australia has grown at twice the national average for the last decade, and our population continues to grow, so the demand is there for services in education and health. The business community is expanding, and I think Western Australia is the future of Australia. In fact, I guess that sounds a bit parochial, but the facts bear that out.
But not at the moment, you're saying, perhaps to hold off a bit for the moment.
Maybe, but we still have a strong migration program, and I would hope that we'll continue to take people from Ireland. They've contributed so much to our community already.
Well, we're going to talk to very many of them throughout the show today, some already and some in the future, and I think you'll probably be very interested to hear what they have to say, that they who have come and tested the waters, and we'll make sure that you get a video copy of this show.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, Premier, for being with us.
And all the best for your stay.
Thank you. Well, I don't know what the temperatures are like at home in Ireland on this St. Patrick's Day. Ach mar ekin sif an seacht a the chuid cardia, gus the chuid gaelte, I berth na Australia, ag bon sulk as an sail in the glorious Australian sunshine. So it's sing-along time now as we join Dubliners Brendan Woods and Sean Roach down at the Red Rose Cafe.
Oh, they come from the farms and the factories too. They all seem to forget where they are. All the cares of the day were washed away as they sit on a stool by the bar. Oh, the girl with green eyes in the Rolling Stone shirt doesn't look like she works on the land. And the man at the end, he's a very good friend of a man who sells cars second hand. Down at the Red Rose Cafe in the harbour, there by the port, just outside Amsterdam, everyone shares in the song and the laughter. Everyone there is so happy to be there. Oh, the salesmen relax with a few pints of beer, and they try not to speak about work. All the poets want to write any verses tonight. He might sing a sweet serenade. Pull up a chair and forget about life. It's a thing to do now and then. And if you like it here, I've got an idea. Tomorrow we'll meet here again. Down at the Red Rose Cafe in the harbour, there by the port, just outside Amsterdam. Everyone shares in the song and the laughter. Everyone there is so happy to be there. You're on your own, let's hear ya! Down at the Red Rose Cafe. There by the port, just outside. Everyone shares in the songs and the laughter. Everyone there. Very good. One more. Down at the Red Rose Cafe in the harbour, there by the port, just outside Amsterdam. Everyone shares in the song and the laughter. Everyone there is so happy to be there. Everyone there is so happy to be there.
We'll have a song from Sean Roach later in the show, but I wonder how Brendan got started in the business here in Australia.
Well, Bibi, I just arrived in Perth about a fortnight and bought my first car, and they told me I'd have to get an agent. So I went along to this agent and presented my credentials, and he told me he had a weekend job for me just a bit up the road, and it was $1,000 for the weekend. So I said, Jesus, great, I've made it, you know.
Nice
big
little
time,
figure, all right.
big time, yeah. So the following morning anyway, I headed off, had no map, no nothing, no clue. Headed out that road, it heads over to Brisbane or somewhere like that. And halfway up the road, I said, I better buy a map. So I bought this map anyway and had a look at it. And I started measuring, and I discovered that it was nearly 1,100 kilometres where I had to go to the gig.
Well, now, that's quite a trip. In Irish terms, that would be like what?
Cork to Derry, hamburger in Derry, back to Cork, Athlone about on the way back, yeah,
I'd say
something
so.
like that, yeah. And Jenny Mac, I said, what am I going to do? So turned on the radio. Radio worked for about the first hour or so, and then it faded out because there's nobody to listen to it out. It's all desert. It's nothing but desert. You know? So I'm barreling along anyway, and could hear nothing. So opened my thing put a cassette in. And the only cassette I had, believe it or not, was Hal Roach and what they call it, the Chieftains on the back of it. So that's all I had for the whole, all the
Well,
way
no, you
up.
could do worse than that because we did shows on both those groups, Hal Roach and the Chieftains. You could do worse, but it's a long trip still.
Yeah, no, 6 hours with Hal Roach is a long time now, you know. But anyway, I was barreling, flying along the highway anyway, and I hadn't seen anybody, no cars, nothing. So all of a sudden I saw this car coming at me, miles and miles in the distance. And just as he came near me, I gave a little wave like this. And so he waved back at me. And next minute, he turned around, stuck a big light on top of the thing, a policeman. And he pulled me in, and I said, yeah. He says, I got you doing 135 kilometres in 120 zone. So this is in the middle of the desert. And I says, I don't believe it. So he says, have you got your licence? And the only licence I had was my Irish licence, the Cadoonas, you know, the little thing with the thing on the back of it. And I didn't see the endorsement on the back. So he duly gave me a parking fine, or a speeding fine for $80. So that was
in the middle of the desert.
yeah, so that was $920 I was making, right? So I arrived anyway in the middle of this place at 7:30 that night after driving for 12 hours, put in my gear, and I heard a beautiful Dublin voice saying, how's it going, mate? You know, Sonny Knowles' son.
Never.
Yeah, in the middle of the Gibson Desert, and so I said, any chance of a tape of your father for the way back?
Look, I want to talk to you a little bit about your family, but about one member of that family in particular, because of course he's very well known in Ireland, and we discovered here as well, and that's Davern Hannah, the poet. How come he's so well known here?
Well, when Bree died...
Now that's your sister, who's
yeah.
Davern's mother.
That's correct, yeah. When she died, we had a lot of charity nights here because funds were very bad in Ireland at the time, and most of the people that you see out there all responded greatly, and we raised nearly 10,000, I think it was about $9,000 or so from here, and we have shows 2 or 3 times a year for to send back help to him, you know, and he's very, very popular here, and on the Irish show here, they read out his poetry quite regularly, you know, and people stop me all the time and ask me, how is he getting on, and how is Jack, and how is everybody coping, you know?
And the Irish community here, do you find that they're just as charitable as they are at home? Because Irish people, in a European context, have a very good reputation of being supremely generous to charities and to worthy causes.
Fantastic out here. If anybody's in trouble out here, everybody rallies around and everybody plays together and everybody helps out, and really fantastic.
Agus in this Chamish a tripbeag mor himpel na Australia here. So it's away from King's Park as we view some scenery shots which we put together to the theme from The Big Country. This vast continent has many wonderful attractions for a leisurely holiday. Unfortunately, we don't have such a luxury on this working trip. However, we wish to thank British Airways for their courtesy in looking after all our transportation needs in the making of this programme. I'm joined now by the man who can most aptly and most easily be described as the gay Byrne of Western Australia. He's from Carrick-on-Shore originally, and he's Jerry Gannon. Well, Jerry, it's a long way from Carrick-on-Shore to being the gay Byrne of Western Australia.
Well, that's what they say, yes, and I'm flattered. Actually, I don't know if Gay would be flattered to have a nondescript Irishman in Western Australia compared to him, but
There's nothing nondescript about what you do here. You know, even in the taxi coming in from the airport, and we mentioned your name, and the taxi driver says, "Oh, Jerry Gannon, of course, he's fabulous." You do this morning show now, just like Gay does at home.
Yes.
But before all that, tell us about Carrick-on-Shore, what you were doing there, and how you got to this particular position you now have.
Well, I was born in Galway in the West Coast, and then came to Carrick-on-Shore in 1972 to play with the Cowboys, and met my wife there and settled down and got married. And in 1979 I went into local radio, which was just starting in those days, and I had a radio station in the garage of my house in Dunbayne in Carrick-on-Shore.
Well, that was a bit illegal and bold.
It was not just a bit, it was totally illegal and totally bold. But there was a demand for it. The community wanted it, so a few of us were supplying it. And then we moved to Clonmel, where we set up a much larger radio station, CBC, which in fact did, in a roundabout way, get its license when the whole thing became legal. It had to close down and then start anew, but it is there as the origin of CBC.
Of course, you do know that you're not endearing yourself to me by not giving a compliment to RTE when you say there was a need for it, but we'll let that one go. It's all legalised now at home, I'm sure, as you're aware.
Yes.
So you were in the music business in a band, and then into radio.
Uh-huh.
Why then did you decide to go to Australia?
Well, I'd always wanted to come to Australia ever since I was a little boy. Ever since I was about 12, I'd had this notion of Australia as a pioneering place where hard effort was rewarded. I had romantic notions about Australia, the outback, the Flying Doctor, even in those days, I knew about. And so one day it was destiny that I was going to come here.
What was your first job?
My first job, after I'd knocked on the doors of 21 radio stations in Sydney looking for a job doing anything, I got 2 weeks casual work with the ABC as a current affairs reporter. A job, in fact, that I hadn't actually ever done before, but I felt that I could do it. I didn't think there was any great mystery about it.
Did you sort of nudge them a little in your direction? You tell them a few little fibs maybe along the way?
Well, somebody told me that the executive producer who was interviewing me was a fan of hardware stores, and if I were to talk about hardware stores, I would endear myself to him, and I did. We talked about hardware stores in Ireland for about 30 minutes, and I dragged the back of my mind to find out what it was that I did know about hardware stores in Ireland. But eventually he gave me 2 weeks' work, and then they put me on a 6-week contract, which kept rolling. And
well, we won't give him any marks for imagination, but we certainly give you marks, I think, for bravery and pluck. And your contract then continued on?
Yes, and then they asked me to come to Perth in Western Australia, that there was a vacancy in the office here, the current affairs office here. Yeah. And some of my colleagues in Sydney said, well, you don't want to go to Perth. It's the end of the earth. It's a 1950s city. But I came here and I found that this was, to me, the most wonderful place on earth, not just Perth, but Western Australia
Why?
as well. Well, it's the biggest state in the Federation. If you travel from Perth, say, to Kununurra, which is up in the northwest of the state, it's the equivalent of going from London to Helsinki. That just gives you some idea. There are 3 distinctly different climates in this state. The topography, particularly up in the Kimberley, is breathtaking. In fact, I have stipulated in my will that my ashes be scattered in the Kimberley. I really feel so moved by the Kimberley.
You're going to make the people of Carrick-on-Shore very sad if you talk like that. But obviously you love the place.
I do, yes.
What about the Irish community here in general? Because I'm sure you have a handle on just where they're at the moment. Is life a little bit difficult for some of them at the moment because of this recession? Or are there also compensatory factors?
Well, the Irish, I guess, don't occupy a position of privilege any more than any other group of people, but they are well regarded here, they are well liked. In fact, the Irish have got such a stake in the heritage of Australia, and particularly Western Australia, because when the first fleet came, there were Irish on it. The first people to open up parts of Western Australia were Irish. They worked alongside the Chinese in building railways in the gold mines in Kalgoorlie. Paddy Hannon, who was the man who discovered gold in Kalgoorlie, was from County Clare, and his memory is still revered in Kalgoorlie and indeed all over the state. So the Irish have been in everything. In every facet of life you will find some Irish people. In politics, even today, we've got Senator Jim McKiernan, who's from County Cavan. He represents Western Australia in the Senate in Canberra. There is so much tradition of the Irish here that we feel so at home here.
What about the quality of life today for the Irish community?
Well, I think if you just look around here today and see what must be the best part of a couple of thousand people sitting out here enjoying a picnic, overlooking this magnificent Swan River. I mean, that's the quality of life which you cannot buy anywhere else in the world, as far as I'm concerned. If you're on the dole or you're unemployed, you can still come to the park for a picnic on a Sunday and enjoy this magnificent view. There is a great quality of life here. Housing here is cheaper than it is anywhere else in the country, so you get better value for your housing. Every second or third person's got a pool in their backyard. Mind you, that takes a lot of looking after, Bibi.
Yeah, it's hard labour.
But when it's 40 degrees in the water bag, it's nice to have a pool in your backyard.
Yeah. You mentioned there, though, if you were on the dole, you could still afford to have a picnic. Are there many of the Irish people having difficulty nowadays getting employment?
Well, I haven't actually looked at if the Irish are any worse off than any other section of community, but again, it's a question of merit and energy and effort here. If you've got the energy and you put in the effort, you derive the merit. Yeah. And so the Irish are very hard workers. They're always known as hard workers. And in fact, many of the Irish who are here will tell you that if they worked this hard back in Ireland, they really wouldn't be as far ahead as they are now.
But isn't it also true to say that there's a certain element of unemployment? For example, it's 11% in Perth at the moment.
11%.
Yeah. Do I understand you then that if you can find the job and if you are prepared to work hard, you will be rewarded?
Of course.
But there is a small question mark at the moment over finding certain types of jobs.
That's right.
Yeah.
Jobs are hard to come by. 11% is high. We were the state in the late 80s that in fact boomed, and many other people from all over the country came to Western Australia. That's part of the reason we've got high unemployment. We've also got a big New Zealand population here. It's a bit like the Irish going to England, the Kiwis coming here. So that's one of the reasons we've got high unemployment. But things are about to take an upturn. We are the biggest miner in the country. And a lot of the Irish are involved in mining as well. As I said, they're absolutely everywhere. So I think, you know, the Irish who are looking for work, if they're working as hard at looking for work as they do when they work, they will find work. Yeah. And when they do, they'll hold on to it and do well. So responsibly, we could encourage some Irish, if they're interested in a life in Western Australia, we could encourage them responsibly to pursue it. Isn't that what you're saying? Sure, yes. But by all means, but investigate it thoroughly. Do not look at the rosy picture. I mean, we've got problems in Western Australia, as I said. We've got unemployment. We've got a juvenile crime problem at the moment that we're scratching our heads over. It is not nirvana here, but hey, it's a heck of a good lifestyle, and it's good enough for me and my family at the moment. Jerry Gannon, thank you very much indeed. It's been my pleasure, Bibi. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Agus anish blúirde Ella Coyle from a local Perth group who go by the name Rich and Famous.
Shining bright, so cut through the air like a song in the air. My yellow. Caught a slow sun shines down on my face so kindly. I won't see you love, I followed my rage so blindly. Spiral stars, southern cross shines through my pain, through my stars of yellow. Flower in my hand could have built a plane, but you were busy with other plans.
Burns o Groth in Shigure Kundinagaleva. Well, Louis, you're very welcome indeed. And I know that you came out to Perth as a £10 tourist. Now, what exactly does that mean?
Well, first of all, Bibi, it's not quite true I was a £10 tourist. Inflation struck and I was actually a £25 tourist.
Well, you're an expensive guy.
I was expensive. I cost £15 more to the Australian government. No, I was on the last year or two of the assisted passages, and it just cost me £25 to get out here.
Yeah. When was that? How long ago was that?
I left Ireland on April Fool's Day 1974.
Very ominous.
It was, but it turned out very well.
What have you been doing?
Oh, I've been working for lots of different people
I
in the
believe
credit industry, basically.
But I believe also you're known as the Shanachie of Perth.
Yes, I have been. Most of the stories I tell privately. Occasionally I tell them in public, but...
Well, how would you like to tell the whole Irish public watching tonight about what you deem to be the differences in what we think Perth in Australia is all about and the real thing?
Well, there's lots of things you don't see in Perth, or you see in Perth that you don't see in Ireland. I mean, you don't see guys going around dressed the way we are, in shorts and everything else. One of the other things I noticed when I came here to Perth and went to church, I discovered a whole new meaning to church. In Ireland, when you go to church, you can't hear a single thing because everybody's coughing and spluttering to death down the back. But in Perth, you can actually hear what's going on in church. The other thing you don't get in Ireland, you don't get in Perth. Every place you go in Ireland, especially in the cold weather, there's always some fellow with a long nose, a black suit, and a drip on the end of his nose.
Oh, Louis, that's not true.
You don't get that in Perth at all.
Where have you been frequenting in Ireland?
I don't know, but I mean, I always remember those as a very distinctive part of Ireland.
Listen, let me ask you, how long does that visa last? Because they'll never let you in if you try to get home.
I know, it's all right. I'm disguised. I'll come in disguised the next time when I go home.
Well, you'll have to be.
Yes.
Yeah. What about this Golden Oldies rugby tour? You're going to want to go back on that.
Oh, yes. Next year, September 93, there are about 6,000 to 8,000 old fat blokes like myself who are going to go over there and play rugby.
Wonderful. Where are you all staying?
Everywhere. We've taken over UCD, all the student accommodation. We're taking over all that. We're taking over Belfield, the playing area.
You're going to try and play rugby, you old fat guys, as you
All
call
us old
yourselves.
fat guys, but we have various rules, like you're not allowed to run too fast and everything else like that. It's all taken very seriously. And one of the rules, which I love, is that half-time must be of sufficient duration that everybody can have a fortifying glass of whatever is required.
Oh, I see. So you do take it all very seriously.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course. We actually, everybody else used to go around with bottles of Guinness because we had the 91 championships here in Perth, and Guinness very kindly came to the fore for us. So everybody else was going around with a little bottle of port. We actually had a barrel of Guinness.
Much better idea.
It was much better.
Support home industry, of
Oh
course.
yes, oh
Yeah.
yes.
But equally seriously, I mean, it's a nice little bit of tourist industry for Ireland, 6,000 of you guys going over.
Well, it's marvellous because bear in mind that you've got to be over 35 to do it. We'll be staying there because a lot of us are coming from this side of the world. I mean, we're not going to go just for a week. And, well, basically, most people will be bringing their family. They're people of a certain age, and one would assume that they've got a few bob to spend, so they will bring a lot of money to Ireland. So,
Who started
out
up
for it.
this idea?
Well, it started about 15 years ago. Rugby players, by their very nature, are children at heart, and when they get too old to run around rugby fields, they can't cope. So we've developed this Golden Oldies, so we can actually go out there and pretend we're still playing.
Wonderful. So this cures all the withdrawal symptoms.
It does, it does. There's no withdrawal symptoms. I mean, this guy's playing over 80 years of age.
Where will you be playing? In UCD only or all around the country? We're going to have to
just
come and
in
see
UCD.
you.
Well, actually, we're doing a tour. We're arriving in Cork, and we're going to play in Cork, Limerick, Galway, and then we go to Dublin and partake of the festivities in Dublin.
All right. Well, they heard it first on the Bibi show, the Golden Oldies Tour in 92. Is it 92 you said?
Yeah. And look for 93, September 93.
Well,
and
then
we are the expats.
We will look forward to seeing all you expats in Ireland. Thank you
We'll
very
look
much,
forward to
Louis
it too.
Burns.
Thank you, Bibi.
Well, I'm joined now by Mary O'Shea from Trim in County Meath. And Mary's had a lot of good fortune in this country, some misfortune, or maybe you should call it lack of fortune, and she's back and up there at it again. Well, Mary, tell us about this very varied life that you've had.
Well, we came out to Australia in 1970, my husband Patrick and I and our 2 children, and we started a catering business. It was a very successful one. And then in 1982, we lost about $5 million in the last recession.
May I say, to have had it to lose, but I know that that's cold comfort.
Indeed, it hurt, it hurt.
I'll bet it did.
Yes.
Did it change your lifestyle entirely then?
Well, yes, a little bit, yes.
Yeah.
I had to go out to work. I went to work for a department store here called Ahern's, and then I went to work with Coles Meyer.
What did your husband do at that stage?
He stayed on in a catering business.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Then how did you pick yourself up again?
Well, it was a little hard. When life has been as easy as that, it was a bit hard, but you just brush yourself down and start all over again.
And what did you actually do in terms of career? Was it back into the catering business?
Basically, I went to work for somebody else in the catering. I was their catering manager, and from that, I went into marketing with the same company.
And what are you marketing nowadays?
I'm in my own business. I started an advertising agency and PR publicity, conference management, you name it, and I'm doing it.
So are you, may I ask, as rich as you used to be?
No.
You tell me that anyway, Mary
No,
O'Shea.
definitely not,
No.
definitely. But we're on our way.
Are you?
On our way, yes.
You're a very resolute person, I think, are you?
Yes,
Determined.
yes, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Wild horses wouldn't stop us. Yeah.
Do you notice that sort of streak among the Irish people who come here?
Very much so, very much so. It's perhaps our greatest streak that we get out there and give it a go. And
Do you need it to survive as an Irish person in Western Australia?
Well, you need it if you want to make money.
Yeah.
You can survive and live well without having it, but to make money you've got to be fairly tough. Yeah.
Mary O'Shea, the very best of luck to you and your husband in the future, and thank you very much for joining us.
A pleasure.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Well, Brendan Curtin hardly needs any introduction to you, former Irish national decathlon champion for a number of years. And with him here in Perth, we have his father, Owen, who's visiting. Well, very nice to see you both.
Thank you
Brendan,
very much.
you of course also were a world superstar.
That's right, that's going back a couple of years. It was 1983, I believe, now in New Zealand.
Yeah.
I know that because it was written on one of my athletic bags, which I'm still using.
What are you doing here in Perth?
I'm the information technology manager for the West Australian Fire Brigade Board.
The Fire Brigade, did you
That's
say?
right, yes. It's the largest fire district in the world,
Yeah.
actually.
Of course, firefighting is a big thing here because of the climate.
That's right, yeah. We get a heck of a lot of bushfires, and very big bushfires sometimes, you know, which can be, some of the largest ones might be bigger than the British Isles. They're virtually uncontrollable at that size. So.
Yeah. How did you get into that sort of business? Because clearly you could have had no experience from back home.
None whatsoever, no. It's just through my engineering qualifications and experience. Yeah. They utilize quite a lot of modern technology, computers and communication systems, and that's basically.
Australia, of course, has its reputation at home anyway and elsewhere for being very pro-sport. Was it the sporting aspect of Australia that enticed you here originally?
Oh, very much so. The beautiful climate and the wide open spaces and the sporting facilities, absolutely ideal here for a sportsman. If you like an outdoor life, Australia is definitely the place to be.
Which sports do you involve yourself mostly in nowadays?
Well, more sedentary ones than I used to.
You're getting lazy on us, are you?
I play a lot of golf and I do some water sports as well, water skiing and a bit of yachting.
Yeah. And of course your dad, Commandant Owen. Lovely to see you.
Thank you.
And I believe you're a regular visitor, Owen.
Oh, I'm a regular visitor. This is my 5th year coming to Australia for their summer and our winter.
Never. What a life.
And I just get back in time for our summer, if it comes, if it ever comes.
Well, of course it comes regularly. Don't be giving us a bad reputation, but what a perfect lifestyle. Do you love it?
I love it. I love it, yes.
You were in charge of all those sporting developments in UCD for many years too, weren't you?
Yes, for about 20 years.
Yes.
Yes.
So you love the outdoor life here too?
Absolutely wonderful.
You play golf?
I do, yes. I taught this guy how to play golf. And
Is he any good?
He is. He was club champion in his own club there the year before last. And he's still playing off a very low handicap, I think 3. Yeah. So I'm improving the other way. I'm out to 11 now, from having been 3 at one time.
Is there anything about Ireland that you miss when you're out here, Owen?
Well, there is, of course, and I gave it serious thought coming out here to live permanently, but our roots are in Ireland. A lot of our family and all our friends are here, and would be too much of a wrench to come out here. So we decided on the best of both worlds, some months here and some months in Ireland.
Well, it's lovely to have that choice. And you're starting to look perfectly Australian, may I say.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you both very much indeed for talking to us
Thank
today.
you very much.
Thank you.
very much.
Raised on songs and stories, heroes of renown.
Blogclioch é seo Sean Roach, and here he is now, as we promised earlier, accompanied by Brendan Woods.
Was Dublin town, the hallowed halls and houses, the haunting children's rhymes, that once was part of Dublin in the rare old times. Ring a rosy, as the light declines, I remember Dublin city in the rare old time. Oh, me name it is Sean Dempsey, as Dublin as could be, born hard and late in Pimlico, in a house that ceased to be. By trade I was a cooper, lost out to redundancy. Like my house that fell to progress, my trade to memory. Sing along with us, please. Come on. Ring a rosy, as the light declines, I remember Dublin city in the rare old time. I courted Peggy Dignam, as pretty as you please, or rode as a child of Mary from the rebel liberty. I lost her to a student chap with skin as black as coal. He took her off to Birmingham, she took away my soul. Ring a rosy, as the light declines, I remember Dublin city in the rare old time. Oh, the years have made me bitter, the drink has dimmed my brain, for Dublin keeps on changing, nothing seems the same. The Metropole and Pillar are gone, the Royal long since pulled down, as that grey unyielding concrete makes a city of my town. Ring a rosy, as the light declines, I remember Dublin city in the rare old time. So fare thee well, sweet Anna Liffey, I can no longer stay and watch the new glass cages that rise up along the quay. My mind's too full of memories to want to hear new chimes. I'm a part of what was Dublin in the rare old times. Here we go, your last chance. Ring a rosy, as the light declines, I remember Dublin city in the rare old times. Ring a rosy.
Fág me sin sibh a fá cúpla bommata ach bé me a ras ar bháid mar sin fanigíling mar sin dalí. Now who's joined me, and she's from Palmerstown in County Dublin. And Rita, I'm going to tell your family and the whole country why you're going to stay on in Aussie. You've got the Aussie boyfriend, haven't you?
That's right, yes.
What's his name?
His name is Julian Henderson, and I guess for a name like Henderson, he's got some Celtic blood in him. He's got an Irish grandmother and a Scottish grandfather, so that's where he
And he's here
originates from.
today?
Yes, he's standing over here.
And looking happy
shying
and
away.
smiling?
Yes.
I hope Julian hears us. There he is. So that's the first time the family at home will have caught a glimpse of Julian.
That's right. They've all been longing to see him, and I've promised that we'll eventually go back to Ireland and I'll take him back on a holiday.
So this is serious
This is the
stuff.
first live version of him, yes.
Well, now, I'm sure you had other reasons, though, for coming to Australia.
Yes, I originally came about 3.5 years ago. I took a career break. I worked with the Irish Post Office, and I decided, well, I'd venture down under and see what it was like, and have never regretted it. I've done very well, and circumstances permitting, I hope to continue staying in Perth.
What's it like for young Irish people in Australia, and in particular for young Irish women, single women in WA?
Very good. It takes a while to get used to the Aussie guys.
Why?
Well, I think some of them are a little bit different to what we
Now,
used
be
to
more
back home.
explicit, please. I have a vested interest in this, even though I'm leaving in the morning.
I think probably a little bit rough at the edges, but Julian isn't like that.
Aren't you lucky this park is full of Irish men today and not Aussies? So it's a bit true what they say about the Aussie male. They're a bit macho, are they?
I think so,
A
yes.
bit rough on the Sheilas.
A bit rough, yes, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I'm going home in the morning, so. What do you do for a living here?
I'm the personnel manager of the health department in Australia, dealing a lot with the industrial relations for the health industry. Similar to what I was doing, a similar role to what I had with the Irish Post Office.
So you've really done very well all round, haven't you?
Yes, very pleased. Got a very good standard of living here in Perth, something that I've built up over the last 3 years and really love it and very happy here.
Well, can we wish you every good luck for the future, and in particular to you and Julian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can tell by the looks, you can tell by the noise, you can tell by the smell that they're sheep shearing boys. So gather the ladies, let no one stand round, and board up your windows, the shearers in town. They work like the devil, they drink like the fish, they eat like the army, eat all food off the dish. And when they're relaxing, it's best not stand near, as you're likely to drown in a cold jug of beer. You can tell by the looks, you can tell by the noise, you can tell by the smell that they're sheep shearing boys. So gather the ladies, let no one stand round, and board up your windows, the shearers in town. They're a good bunch of lads, let no one deny, and while they are working it's safe to stand by. But give them an inch, and they'll take a mile, all for a laugh, sir, but lacking in style. You can tell by the looks, you can tell by the noise, you can tell by the smell that they're sheep shearing boys. So gather the ladies, let no one stand round, and board up your windows, the shearers in town. With a hoot and a holler, they roll down the street, they're pulling the legs of the people they meet. They've stepped up the board, sir, their tally they've met. It's down to the pub, sir, let's drink and forget. Woo! When the shearing's all over, there's a sigh of relief. When the shearers have finished a shearing the sheep, you can set loose your daughters and let down their hair. You can walk down the street, lads, without any cares. You can tell by the looks, you can tell by the noise, you can tell by the smell that they're sheep shearing boys. So gather the ladies, let no one stand round, and board up your windows, the shearers in town. You can tell by the looks, you can tell by the noise, you can tell by the smell that they're sheep shearing boys. So gather the ladies, let no one stand round, and board up your windows, the shearers in town. Thank you.
Yes, indeed, this is the country for sheep shearing boys, all right. They call themselves the Mucky Duck Band. Well, I'm joined now by Dublin man John McGlue, who is the chief political writer with the morning newspaper that we read here in Perth and in surrounding areas, and that's the West Australian. Well, John, you're very welcome indeed.
Thank you.
How did you get from Dublin to this eminent position that you have in Perth?
Well, I came here a little over 5 years ago, I think it's 5-6 years ago, and joined the daily newspaper as a finance writer. That's my background. And from there I went on to become the finance editor of the newspaper, and then from there about a year ago I moved into the political arena. In Western Australia there's not a lot of difference between finance and politics.
Is that because of some terribly corrupt deeds or something?
Some dodgy deeds, you might say. Certainly some interesting, colourful ones.
We won't go into those today, but I want to talk rather more about you. Were you a journalist then at home before you came over here?
Yes, I was. For about 2 years after coming out of uni, I was working for business magazines, trade magazines then, just before I came here. I've done most of my journalistic work here, and I suppose I tend to think of most of my growing up here, tend to think pretty much about Australia now.
And you sound Australian, we have to say that.
I don't know why that is. Some people say, oh, you've lost your Irish accent. People here think I've got a profound Irish accent, and...
Well, all those people watching at home tonight, they're not going to agree, I don't think. What about the way you go about your job? You know how at home there's a lot of networking going on if you're a political correspondent. You know a lot of people in the right places and you have contacts all over the joint. Is it the same here?
Yeah, I think political reporting is probably the same the world over. It's exactly like that. I think there are a lot of similarities between Ireland and Australia as far as politics is concerned, I think, and reporting on it. For example, we tend not to delve into the private lives of politicians as much as, say, the British newspapers do. I mean, in London, if you're caught with some indiscretion, you're going to be written about and broadcast about. In Ireland and also in Australia, you tend to get away with that. Certainly, former prime ministers in Ireland and in Australia may be guilty of indiscretions and just get away with it. So I think that's a similarity.
I'm glad you said maybe, John. I'm glad you said maybe.
I've nobody in mind when I say that.
I'm sure you don't. What about the modus operandi of Australian politicians, though, when it comes to election time? I mean, are they a bit like our own? Do they go around promising the earth to the voters?
They do. I mean, there are lengthy lists of promises for the voters. I think probably a difference would be that for all the talk of recession in Australia and doom and gloom, Australia is a pretty wealthy country. The lifestyle, as you can see here in Perth, it's a great city to live in. There are lots of places like this. The scene is replicated across Australia. So politicians tend to have a bit more money relative to, say, Ireland than they do in Dublin. And I think here they tend to talk about more about how they're going to spend money, and perhaps in Ireland there's a lot more talk about the absence of it.
Do they have the money to spend, though? I think not. There is a bit of a depression on, isn't there?
For Australia, this is a pretty bad time,
yeah.
but relative to the rest of the world, say relative to Europe, I think the social well-being of Australia is still relatively high and relatively good, and people can have a good life, good lifestyle, and of course people in Australia, it really is a meritocracy here. If you're only good and you work hard, you can get on, where there are no sort of class barriers or establishment barriers, and it's much easier to get on, I think.
You paint a very positive picture of it. Does that mean you're going to spend the rest of your life here?
I don't know if I'll spend the rest of my life in Australia or even Perth, but certainly I've now got a young family, so we'll spend some time here. I've had the temptation to go east and have resisted that so far.
Not back to Dublin?
No, certainly not.
John McGlue, thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
This is Sinead Short. She wants to say hello to her granny and granddad Short in Dublin and her granny and granddad Mooney in Kerry. Say hello.
Hello.
Happy birthday, Patty.
Happy birthday,
On 50th on St. Paddy's Day.
This is Shane Walsh, and I'd like to say hello to his granddad in Wexford and his nana in Dublin.
Hello, Nana and Grandad. In County Cork.
Hi, Mammy. Hi, Granny, Kitty and Grandad. Have a great St. Patrick's Day. We miss you. Bye.
Well, I'm joined now by a man who's well known all over Ireland, of course, and beyond too, for his soccer. He's played in his own hometown for Athlone. He's played with Shamrock Rovers, Derry City, and last time we met in the cricket club, they know him too, we met in the cricket club in Singapore. He is, of course, Noel Larkin with a very big fan club here in Perth. Well, Noel, you're very welcome indeed.
Thank you very much.
What were you doing in Singapore that time? I can't remember now.
I was over for a seven-a-side tournament. When I came out here in '89, towards the end of '89, they had a seven-a-side tournament in Singapore, and I went over for that.
Now, why did you decide to come to Australia then?
It was early '89. I was playing with Derry City at the time, and I got a phone call from a club in Perth, and they invited myself and my family over. And
was it, as they say, an offer you couldn't refuse? Was it that sort of lure?
I wanted to come and see what the place was like. I'd heard a lot of reports about it, and how nice it was and how nice the weather was and whatever. And I just wanted to come over and have a look and see what it was like.
Yeah. What about, was there an age factor involved at all?
No, nothing. It was just basically to do with soccer, with football, and that was the reason I took it up.
Well, how did you find it over here?
I loved it when I arrived first, and then it took the holiday sort of feeling went out, and learning to live here took over, and that took a while to get over that.
What were the problem areas?
Oh, just basically settling down. Marion and the kids had no problem settling, but I had a fair problem settling down.
Yeah.
I missed back home, missed the
Do you
people.
still?
Oh, there are times, yeah, there are times. It's a good place.
Who are you playing for now?
I'm playing with a club called Macedonia, Sterling Macedonia here. We've got a game on tonight now, so...
What about coaching? You do a bit of coaching as well?
That's right, yeah. Mainly with the young kids now.
Yeah.
Go to schools and do some coaching at some of the clubs as well.
Yeah. What about getting a visa, Noel? Did you get out on a soccer visa, so to speak?
Yeah, I came out on a sporting visa, which allowed me to stay here for 2 years. After the first year, we decided to stay. We decided to try and stay. So through the soccer, we approached the immigration for a permanent visa, and that was successful.
Now, soccer is in no way as big here, though, as it is at home or in Britain, surely?
No. The big sport here at the moment is footy, Australian football. Soccer in Perth is a part-time. It's on a part-time basis. I think nationally it's part-time, but it's a lot bigger in the eastern states than it is in Perth.
Is it going to get any bigger here, WA?
I don't know. I think the vastness of the country. You can't have a national competition really because of the vastness of the country. Because it's a part-time sport, it's difficult for it to... But with the kids and schools and that, it's very popular.
But do you not miss the status and therefore the great buzz and excitement that's attached to it back home?
Yeah, you do. It's something that I miss, but I think if I was back home at the moment, I wouldn't be playing anyway. So I've gone past that stage.
Well, what about here? Can you last longer here, as they say?
A wee bit, yeah. Some say you can't, but I'm doing all right at the moment.
You're doing all right?
I'm doing all right.
We're glad to hear it. And thanks a million, Noel. And next time, who knows where we'll meet?
We'll think about that the next time.
We'll try and organise somewhere equally exotic. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Thanks a lot, Bibi.
Thank you. Well, I'm joined now by Malachy McAleer, who is the manager of the Irish Club here in Perth. Well, Malachy, where do you come from originally?
I come from 6 Mile Cross, outside Omagh in County Tyrone in Northern Ireland.
And you were in the bar business over there, I understand?
Yes, I have my own pub over there for 4.5 years and a restaurant.
Yeah. What about the Irish Club now here in Perth? How many members would you have, for example?
We have between 950 and 1,000 members current at the minute, but they're joining at the rate of 6 to 8 every week, so it's building up really well.
And are they all Irish?
Not all Irish. I would say 60-65% Irish. The other is English, Scottish, Welsh, and all nationalities over the world.
Australian?
A lot of Australian, yeah.
Do we bring with us here a reputation for being hearty and liking a bit of a laugh and all of that sort of thing?
The Irish Club is basically a home from home for the Irish people. For immigrants from Ireland, for people on holiday visas, we make them very welcome and ask them all to come along.
Yeah.
And if I can be of any help at all to them,
yeah,
they're very welcome to ask me.
So you're almost a little bit of an embassy as well?
Basically, basically. We represent the Irish people.
Yeah. What other formal services do you provide in that club?
Services we have a lot of side tracks. We have we have soccer clubs, we have the Gaelic Football Association, we have the hurling, we have Irish dancing classes every week in the club, we have Irish language classes every Wednesday night in the club, we have squash, we have various sports facilities in the club.
And do you find that you need a little cure for homesickness sometimes too?
Well, it's there. Cure is there for homesickness. A lot of people do get homesick, especially when they arrive in the first few weeks.
Yeah.
All they have to do is come in and talk to us, and you always find that whatever county in Ireland you're from, I'll be able to introduce you to someone else from that county.
And I suppose you have other types of cures there as well, and I suppose they do need them too from time to time.
Yes, cures are all
the remedies are
yes,
there.
all the remedies are there.
Well, Malachy, thanks a million for coming to us to the King's Park today, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Bibi.
Trickle, trickle, splash,
and for our final group this evening, Kermish Fáilte with Bad Habits.
There ain't no stopping. Tell me how long will this rain last? A trickle, trickle, slop, slop. Just got to see my sweet gumdrop. She's there waiting and I'm hesitating. Tell me just when the rain will stop. Ronnie, dig my clothes here, boy. A one-button roll. Well, you know I'm sharp as a tack. Can you lend me your Cadillac? Gotta go to the party, yeah, please lend me your short. Well, if I can't take it, you know I can't make it. I won't see my baby no more. Oh, trickle, trickle, splash, splash. Tell me how long will this rain last? The rain keeps dropping, there ain't no stopping. Tell me how long will this rain last? Trickle, trickle, slop, slop. Just got to see my sweet gumdrop. She's there waiting and I'm hesitating. Tell me just when the rain will stop. Ronnie, she's sweet, she's fine, yeah, boy, and I love her so. Well, if I can't make this party, man, she's sure to blow. Gotta go to the party, yeah, please lend me your short. Well, if I can't take it, you know I can't make it. I won't see my baby no more. Oh, trickle, trickle, splash, splash. Tell me how long will this rain last? The rain keeps dropping, there ain't no stopping. Tell me how long will this rain last? Trickle, trickle, slop, slop. Just got to see my sweet gumdrop. She's there waiting and I'm hesitating. Tell me just when the rain will stop. Tell me how long will it last? Yeah.
Well, I'm joined now by Father Joe Walsh, who is a Roman Catholic chaplain at the Air Force Base here in Sydney, and he's also a parish priest here. And with him is a visitor to Perth. That's Father Jim McCormick, who's Vice President of All Hallows College in Dublin. And you're very welcome, Father Jim.
Thank you very much.
And I assume I'm a little bit welcome, Father Joe?
Thank you very much. You're very welcome here too, Bibi.
And the last time we met Father Joe was on a flight from New York, and I have to tell the viewers at home and disgrace you totally. What you did was, you slept the whole way, even though you were sitting beside me.
That's right. I was very tired.
That's your excuse. Well, tell me, what is it like being a parish priest in Perth?
I think it's very exciting. I came here from All Hallows in 1976, and I've worked in these 3 parishes here in the city, and now I'm out in the Air Force, which is about 2 hours north of here.
Well, you know, anybody who knows me at home would expect me to come honest at this stage and say, how can it be exciting being a parish priest? And I don't mean to be offensive when I say that. But I think that what you mean is that somehow it's substantially different from being a parish priest at home. Is that so?
Yeah, well, most of my time is spent with the Air Force, so quite a lot of the time I'm engaged with the people up here in the sky. The actual Air Force Base itself is the pilot training area for West Australia. So at any one time we've got about 70 pilots. And they do pray, you know, when they're up there in the sky.
I bet they do.
They sure do, yeah.
Do you?
I do too, yeah.
You have a special visitor with you. Father Jim, you're here for a particular reason.
Yes, this year is the 150th anniversary of the founding of All Hallows College, which is in Drumcondra in North Dublin. And since that time, 1842, priests have been going all around the world as the Irish emigrated to different places. The priests of All Hallows have been following them around to the States, to South Africa, and a lot of them have come to Australia, perhaps about 1,000 or so down the years.
1,000 All Hallows priests?
That's right, yes.
That's a lot of priests from
That's
your
a lot
college.
of men, yes. Right from the start. Some of the early ones came over in the convict ships, living in very, very difficult conditions. I must say I've been reading up the history and I've been impressed by some of the stories I've been reading about the early chaps. They were very tough. They were good, just good at roughing it in very difficult circumstances. I must say it makes life nowadays seem pretty easy indeed.
Father Joe, what about you? Must you stay here for the rest of your life? Can you choose to go back home now to a parish in Ireland if you want to?
No, I volunteered in 1976 to come to West Australia, to Perth.
Yeah.
And it's a very happy decision. It's a beautiful, beautiful city, as you begin to realize. And the challenge is great because I see in Perth and its future a huge multi-cosmopolitan sort of situation. This morning at 7 a.m. I celebrated Mass for a group of people, and they were from all countries under the sun, you know? And St. Patrick's Day is important, so is the Chinese New Year, so is the Indonesian days. So there's a whole variety of people. And, you know, it's great when you get invited for a meal, you know? Because you can eat French cuisine or Italian or whatever else.
Father Joe, you love the good life in Perth, I can tell.
I love it.
Father Jim, you have no chance of getting him back to All Hallows and Drumcondra, I can tell.
I don't think so, no.
I don't think so. Can I thank you both very much indeed for being with us?
Thanks very much, Bibi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm joined now by Paddy and Vera Larkin, and they own the Blarney Castle Theatre restaurant here in Perth. And Paddy, I must say, this is a unique idea. It's the only Irish-owned one that I've noticed around the place.
Well, that would be true, yes. There is no other Irish theatre restaurant in Perth, and probably Western Australia for that matter.
So how did you get the idea?
Well, it was already there actually. We were there from the beginning. It just was one of these things that it seemed like a good idea at the time, and sort of was a good idea.
And what sort of business were you in before then?
Well, Frida has always been in the catering business, and she looks after all the catering side of our enterprise, shall we say, and I do the entertaining side.
Were you in entertainment before you came to Australia?
Not fully, no. It was all right, but not certainly in as much as we are now.
Yeah. What about food in Australia? Lots of fish, of course, being here in Perth.
Yes, but we at the Blarney Castle, we try to give it more of an Irish food. Well, we do the Irish soda bread and the wheaten bread, and we start off with a Dublin soup. And
What's at the moment... What's a Dublin soup? Dublin prawn or something?
No, it's just good beef and vegetables, all fresh vegetables. Everything fresh goes into it, and I make the bread every single day. So. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming to talk to us at the King's Park.
It's our pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bibi.
This is John Flood from Athlone, and he's a volunteer with a rather special radio called Radio Lollipop. Well, what exactly is Radio Lollipop, John?
Well, Bibi, it's made up of a group of volunteers and a radio station within the Princess Margaret Hospital here in Perth. Princess Margaret Hospital is the largest children's hospital in Western Australia, and our volunteers, we have 60 in number, come to visit the children in the wards, talk to them, play games, entertain them. The aim of Radio Lollipop is to bring care, play and entertainment to children in hospital, and the radio part of it is only an accessory to that. The main thing is to cheer up the children and make them happy when they're away from home.
Is as brí cúlin do gunne the Irin on King's Park? That's David Cleary. I wonder how he came to get a job as a gardener here.
By accident, actually. It was just strolling through the park with the wife and children, and happened on one of the gardeners here and asked him where I'd apply for a job, and he told me and filled in the forms, and about 2 or 3 days later got a phone call and to go down for an interview. And the funny thing about it was, you could say it's the luck of the Irish. I landed a job on St. Patrick's Day.
Well, you heard Brendan Curtin talking about the hazard of fighting fires here in Western Australia. Here's a guy who does it on the ground, you might say. It's John McClune. Well, John, you are called Green Adair.
Sometimes, yeah.
They made you change your colour, I suppose, being Irish. You worked with Red Adair and the fellas?
No, he wasn't there, but 2 of his people were.
Yeah.
He's only got 8 people to work for him, and 2 were with me on the rig.
Yeah. It's a pretty rough sort of a job, I should think, firefighting.
Oh, it's good fun.
It's a lot of fun. Where's the fun in it?
The money.
Well, this is Peter McKenna from Belfast, who is Vice President of the GAA in Western Australia. Well, Peter, how healthy is the GAA in Western Australia nowadays?
Here in West Australia, GAA is very healthy at the moment. We've got 5 clubs, senior football clubs. We have got probably 7 teams for a minor competition this St. Patrick's Day. That consists of some of the school colleges, and our own clubs are developing minor football to carry on with the traditions of football, and hopefully we'll get hurling as well moving along this year.
Do you know a lady called Marie and a fellow called Jim who live in Ballincollig in County Cork?
Yes.
And what are they to you?
My nanny and granddad.
And you know they're very, very proud of you.
Hi, Mum and Dad. This is your new grandson, Keelan. A year yesterday. Happy Patrick's Day. Hope to see you at Christmas. And hello to everybody in Walkinstown.
Hello everyone in Donegal and also in the Midlands. We love you very much and hope to see you again in the near future.
They say about Irish people that no matter where you go in the world, you're going to meet somebody that you know or are related to. I discovered when I came to Perth that Willie's mum and my dad were first cousins. So this is my cousin. Okay, well that's it from us here in the beautiful city of Perth in Western Australia. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we especially hope that you've managed to see some of your friends and relatives here in the King's Park in Perth. We'll see you another time later on, but for the moment, that's all from all of us here. Bye-bye now.
worse. Nurse wants an ambulance.
He's taking the master his train.